I've had two Major League Fishing Toyota Series events at the Delta this year, and it was just flat out tough for me on both tournaments. The second one, which is what we're going to talk about in today's video, was much better in terms of numbers, but not in terms of the finish. The fishing was still tough overall and not like the typical California Delta. Thank you for clicking on this video. For anybody new, I am Matt Luna. I make a lot of tackle making videos, how-to videos, on the water fishing videos, tournament fishing videos, a lot of good stuff here on the channel. So if that sounds like stuff that you want to watch, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can watch more content coming out in the future. Before we dive deep into the tournament, I want to talk to you guys about Waterland Fishing Optics. Waterland Fishing Optics is my sunglasses sponsor. I wear the high bros off the water all the time. They make great sunglasses. They have a lot of different options, a lot of different frame styles. Got a brand new bed fisher frame that's perfect for sight fishing, perfect for those times where you got to see deep into the water. So head over to the Waterland website. It's waterlandcode.com and use my discount code LUNA15. It'll save you 15% off. So heading up to the Delta for this second tournament, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew the fishing was still tough up there, and it wasn't fishing where it should be for this time of year. When I pulled up to the lake on my first day of practice, which was only a half a day, it was super warm outside. I fished around in some areas and right away got 3 bites on the first day out there in practice. And to put that in perspective, I caught 4 bass the entire trip when I was out there in March. The fishing was so tough that I literally caught 4 largemouth bass the entire trip I was out there for the Delta. I ended up having an okay tournament, finish right in the middle of the pack, but that's because I weighed in 2 fish for 12 pounds. I had an 8-pounder and a 4-pounder on the second day and ended up right in the middle of the pack. So I knew right away that the fishing was much better than it had been a month prior, but we still had a long way to go in order to really be competitive. The biggest fish I caught in the entire trip this time around was probably 5 pounds or so, and it came on a fire crawl chatterbait. I pulled into an area that I like to fish and fish one of the different islands that they have. At the Delta, there's current that's flowing through the system pretty much all the time, depending on the tide. And I hit this spot at the outgoing tide, and I was able to throw that chatterbait up there, fished it around some of the submerged grass, and ended up getting a good solid bite. So I felt good about that area because I've caught fish in that area in the past, and I was able to come back this time of year and catch fish again. So I was really hoping that that place was going to hold up come tournament time, and I'd be able to fish around in there and get some more bites, because it was a perfect little area for when that outgoing tide is pushing that water out, because of the way everything is positioned. Another quality fish that I caught in practice was on the red spinnerbait that I make with my do-it molds. It's the ultra minnow spinner jig mold that I make with my do-it molds, and caught a big one in the tournament last trip, and then I caught a good one in practice. Nowhere near the same quality in practice this time as the one I caught in the tournament last time, but it was still a tournament quality fish. Probably was 3.5, 4 pounds, something like that. But it gave me confidence that that red spinnerbait might be something that I can get a big fish to go on, because I've really only caught a handful of fish on that red spinnerbait, and they're always above average. A bait that I caught a lot of numbers on in practice and even in the tournament was just a more typical chartreuse and white spinnerbait. Again, I make it with the ultra minnow spinner jig mold from Do It Molds, but the spinnerbait was something that I was relying upon going into the tournament to really kind of get my limit going and hopefully get some good bites on that red one. I was also going to keep the chatterbait honest, stickbait honest, and I always am going to have something to flip and punch with on the Delta, just depending upon what I come across. I really wanted a crankbait bite to go, but I couldn't seem to get quality fish on the crankbait. I know a lot of people were catching fish on the crankbait, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get keepers on the crankbait. If I put it in my hand and covered that riprap, I would get bit, but I just couldn't seem to get the quality that I knew I was going to need in order to really try to compete with these guys on the Delta. Guys found that bite, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to find it. So going into the tournament, my focus was to stay in some of the clearer water areas that I had found in practice, because that's where I felt like I could get the most consistency in getting bit. I had some better quality fish down in some of the stained water, but I didn't know if I could get the number of bites that I was going to need in order to put a limit together. And I did get some halfway decent bites in some of that clear water, so it was just hopefully I can get a lot of bites and then run across, a couple plus size fish to kind of push my weight up. So as day one was progressing, I was fishing that spinnerbait, really kind of hugging the tule line, slow rolling that spinnerbait right along the tules. And I managed to catch some fish pretty quick. I ended up having my limit by around 10 o'clock or so. And then I went into some really clear water where I had caught some jerkbait fish in practice. I was throwing the 6 cents provoked jerkbait, and I was just working along the riprap, and I got a lot of bites doing that. I didn't get any big bites doing that, but I got a lot of bites. So I was just hoping that if I went into that area, fished the spinnerbait, fished a crankbait, fished that jerkbait, and just covered some water, that I'd come across one of those plus size fish. They're going to be coming into that clear water to spawn. But for whatever reason, I couldn't manage to get any good bites in that area. So all said and done for day one of the tournament, I ended up getting my 5 fish limit, but it was a small one, a little over 8 pounds, which is not what you need on the Delta. But thankfully that 8-pound limit didn't put me out of the mix. I needed about 16 pounds on day 2 in order to really get me into that top 25 that would give me a chance to make day 3. It was just a matter of being able to find yourself around the right fish that wanted to bite and that had the quality to get me to that 16-pound average. So as fishermen, we like to be outside. We like to hunt. We like to fish. We like to camp. We like to be outside. We need products that are going to help us do that. GCI Outdoor makes awesome outdoor chairs, tables, stadium seats, bleacher seats. They have it covered for the outdoors. Head over to their website through the affiliate link that I have in the description of this video, so that way they know that I sent you, and check out all the different products that they offer. You will like their products. They make high quality stuff. Again, guys, use that affiliate link that is down in the description, so that way any sales get credited back to me here on the channel. So going into this event, I had a few different goals in mind. Goal number 1, make the Toyota Series Championship. I was sitting 26th in points, needed to finish in 25th in points in order to qualify for the championship. Goal number 2, make the top 25 in order to fish day 3. Goal number 3, cast a check. Goal number 4, win this thing. We all want to go to a tournament and we all want to win, but there are little different goals that we might have along the way, and that's what I was trying to accomplish in this event. So going into day 2, I knew I needed a big bag in order to accomplish some of these goals. Goal number 1 was to make the championship. I knew I was going to need a limit in order to do that. So my first plan was to go to that clear water, fish very efficiently, very effectively, and get that limit as quick as possible. I thought if I went in there, fished the spinnerbait very effectively, I could get 5 keeper bites, get them in the boat, and then go to some of the dirtier water where I had some bigger bites in practice and really spend some time maximizing those areas and trying to get some fish to cull out some of those smaller ones that I was catching on the spinnerbait. Unfortunately, that game plan didn't end up coming together. I went to the clear water, caught some fish, but I only ended up with 1 keeper out of those areas. I caught a couple short fish, only had 1 keeper. I thought for sure I was going to be able to have a limit by 8:30, 9 o'clock, but that was far from reality. So I ended up just starting to scramble at this point. I ran all over the lake. I ran back down south. I fished a lot of that stained water, just looking for warmer water, hopefully some more active fish. Kept throwing that spinnerbait because that's really all I felt confident in. Start throwing a chatterbait a little bit. My co-angler was throwing a drop shot, throwing the stick bait, throwing a lot of slower stuff, and he wasn't really getting bit either. So I really didn't have any clues to kind of key me in on what I needed to be doing. So I just felt like the spinnerbait was something that was a staple all through my practice. So I'm going to keep that thing in my hand, cover water. Eventually, I'm going to run into some fish. Unfortunately, none of that panned out. It's about 2 o'clock. I got to weigh in at 3, and I have 1 fish in the boat. And I go back into the track, which is close to where we're launching from. And I was just trying to maximize my time at that point. So I'm fishing just different scattered tule areas with some grass in there, throwing a chatterbait around, and I'm just reeling that thing back. And I get bit, and I get another fish in the boat. So now I have 2 small keeper fish. I think the second one was a 2-pounder. The one before that was even less than 2 pounds. So I'm just fishing around, just trying to salvage the day as best as possible. I end up blowing up my reel, so I can't even use the chatterbait anymore. So I just picked up something that I had close by, which was a drop shot that I rigged up. Wasn't even rigged up on the right rod that I would normally like to throw a drop shot on, but it was already tied up. I didn't have time to start messing around with different presentations, different rods and stuff like that. I just had to go with what was in front of me laying on the deck. So I'm fishing that drop shot around, and I ended up getting another small keeper bite. My co-angler ends up catching a couple fish. So we have 3 fish in the boat, each of us. I have 3, he has 3, and we needed probably another 20 minutes, and I think we both would have had a limit. The reason why I think that is the weather started warming that day, so it was warming that surface temperature. Those fish were wanting to move shallow. They're wanting to get into those areas to start spawning, and they wanted to eat before they spawned. Then we also had the current starting to change and flow back in the system, and everywhere that I got bit, or that we got bit, at the end of that day was where that current was flowing back into the system, and it got those fish triggered. It got them to start eating. And I literally think where we were at, we needed another 20 minutes, and I probably would have caught 2 more, and he would have probably caught 2 more, and we would have both had a limit, but we ran out of time and had to go back in with 3 fish apiece. So all said and done, on day 2, I ended up weighing a whopping 4 pounds, 9 ounces with my 3 fish. So all 3 of them were pretty small at that. A limit would have gone a long way, I think, in this one. I ended up finishing in 53rd, which is a horrible finish. There was only 69 boats, so it's definitely bottom of the field. And it took me from 26th in points down to 30th in points, so I didn't even qualify for the Toyota Series Championship later on this fall. This tournament did not turn out how I anticipated. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching all the Toyota Series coverage from Lake Havasu and these 2 events out on the Delta. If you missed any of that coverage, make sure to go into the playlist that I have on the channel, and you guys can catch up on anything that you missed from any of the 3 tournaments. A lot of good information from those events and these recaps, and just through the practice and the tournament day. So go back in time, watch those videos on my playlist here on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.